Hi, I thought I would make one of my first longer videos about astrology, just because it is something that I've studied for almost 20 years now, more informally for the most part, and just so I could learn about myself, kind of do readings as kind of party tricks and whatever for friends. But definitely more as I've started my business a couple years ago and giving readings professionally. I've just really started to think about a lot of things, why it has been negatively portrayed for so long and really misunderstood, undervalued, underappreciated. There's a lot of reasons behind that, I think, the more I've really reflected on it. But it's definitely something that I will continue to fight for. I think there is so much value we can derive from it when it's really studied and applied appropriately. I'm consistently disappointed and frustrated by, some of the magazines and, just content out there that really diminishes the value and nuance of astrology and why it should be treated as a science more than anything, as opposed to viewed as a religion or, it's unfortunately a lot of the people who know just enough to be harmful who, like I said, they learn just enough to start saying things and posting content all over TikTok, Instagram, and whatever. And I'm on two sides of that, where on the one hand, I do love that it has become so much more discussed and common and popularized, but at the same time, I do wish there was just a lot more checks and balances in place to really help us discern, what is true, what is accurate information, and, what's not. Because, just like psychology or any other science, we do have a lot of systems in place to help with that. And unfortunately, at this point, we still have a long ways to go when it comes to astrology. That is definitely part of the reason why I decided to move to India to start, getting a, more formal degree, obviously, in Vedic astrology, Hindu astrology. At this point in time, there are very few universities that offer classes related to astrology, which is also, unfortunate. And I really hope over the course of my lifetime, there can be a lot more classes available that are accredited and that are taught by people who really know their stuff and what they're talking about. Because, unfortunately, it is still something that really requires people to kind of, if they're interested in astrology, they have to do a lot of research on their own. It's not readily taught in schools, and it's still, unfortunately, stigmatized by many people as well. So there's a lot of people who are afraid to be open and upfront about, liking astrology or the fact that they're studying it. So those are all things that, as I said earlier, kind of contribute to why it's just really not as respected, I would say, as I hope it will be eventually. And viewed and treated like a tool, something that we can all really benefit from, frankly. I really love that, especially with Vedic astrology, using the sidereal system, it's allowed me to really introspect a lot more, especially along my spiritual journey, because I would say Western tropical astrology is a lot more used, at least currently, to, know about personality and some of the more kind of mundane aspects of life, 3D life at least. So the thing I really love about Vedic astrology is that it really does go a lot deeper than that and really gets to the heart of karma and dharma and, again, how to kind of like spiritually evolve, honestly. So those are all things that I have really observed in my study of Vedic astrology. Again, I think it's only been about like 5 or so years that I even became aware of Vedic astrology. It was just, I was randomly searching on YouTube, and I actually came across KRS astrology, Kapil Raj, who I'm obsessed with. He's one of my favorite astrologers. And I started to realize, whoa, like there's more than just, one system of astrology. And again, there's also, Chinese astrology and a lot of other systems out there. But in my personal experience, I do really love Vedic astrology. I think it offers a lot of really excellent depth, and just gives a lot more stuff to study between the nakshatras and the padas and deities and stuff that are all related to the placements and the constellations and such. So that's just given me a lot more to really sink my teeth into, that I think, I know Western astrology, the tropical system, lacks. And again, unfortunately, most people living in the United States or even throughout Europe aren't even aware of the Indian sidereal system. So because of that, a lot of people don't even know that there's other things to study. And I think the Western tropical system does offer a lot of value in different ways. In the 3 or so years that I've been giving readings, I have really primarily only been giving astrology readings using that system. So as I said, it's still, I think, valuable, but it just doesn't necessarily provide the same depth that the Vedic sidereal system does. So I feel very privileged, lucky to be studying at a university here in India, learning from Indian professors and with Indian classmates right now. It's a very different way and perspective that we don't really have in the West. So I'm really lucky to get to experience that right now. Just in terms of my own personal journey with astrology, again, I was in my early teens when I first became aware of astrology. I was on the website myjellybean.com for anyone who's familiar. And I, had a crush on someone and was just looking up our placements, mostly basically just sun sign, and just kind of went down a rabbit hole from there. And it like I said, it was something that I kept pretty hidden for most of my life. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my family and most of my friends about it, just because there's been such a lingering stigma attached to it. But I think obviously I've become a lot more comfortable, especially as I've found a community of people who do study astrology themselves and see the value in it, and it's not viewed in such a negative light as some of the people I grew up around. So that's been a real blessing for me. It did take some strength and courage to kind of come forward, at least when I started announcing my business and what I was doing around that. But I'm really glad that I did, because I think it's healed a lot within me, the fact that I was kind of originally felt a little, just ostracized, or like I was like weird for really liking it. But I think things have really changed. And again, it's great to now be living at a time and age where a lot of people are actually talking about it freely. And as I said, just looking at their own charts, recognizing the patterns, and again, I think it's an excellent tool for just becoming a lot more self-aware, recognizing patterns in your family, in your partnerships, your friendships. And I mean, anything that allows you to do that, I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's a blessing, honestly, to have anything that allows us to do that kind of introspection. Because a lot of people are, self-aware, not self-aware, rather, very unconscious, honestly, to our patterns of behavior. And it can be very challenging to become self-aware, when all we really have are those around us who, don't even necessarily tell us or are honest with us sometimes. So astrology kind of really gets to the heart of like, okay, this is who you are, this is the energy you carry, these are your traits and patterns. And from there, you can really get a lot more, honest with yourself and grow from that. So especially with the Vedic system, I really value kind of the spiritual aspect of it. And, I think just in general, I really look forward to continuing to, share with people some of my opinions about astrology as a tool. I think it's very interesting living in India, how there's a huge focus on the marriage aspect and measuring compatibility in that light. I do have my own opinions, honestly, around that, and many of them do honestly differ with what a lot of astrologers here in India express. But as I continue to, I don't know, just reflect on myself and do research, hopefully, and talking to other people I continue to give readings to in the future. I definitely am sure will come to my own conclusions about some of that stuff. I would say with regards to some of the remedies that are, recommended and used, especially here in India, to counteract negative transits, as they're known, or placements, difficult placements. That's something that I've definitely been disappointed by, I will say. I think it's truly unfortunate that it's definitely been very manipulated, honestly, especially with the gemstone industry. I think a lot of, astrologers and palmists out there who will, say, okay, just buy this super expensive gemstone, whether it's like a yellow sapphire, pukuraj or something, or the neelam, the blue sapphire, right? It's unfortunate because, as I said, I tend to believe that some of our karmas, you can't just buy them away. And I think that's unfortunately what a lot of people do believe, or rather they're told, okay? And also when it comes to pujas, as they're known, some of the ceremonies and rituals that astrologers will perform. Again, I do think there's something to be said for prayer and, being charitable, doing acts that are, helpful to others. I do actually think those kinds of things really help a lot with kind of balancing out someone's negative karmas, perhaps. But some of the remedies and stuff, I really, like I said, I think it's really hurting the legitimacy of astrology in a lot of ways. And I just think there's a lot of other things and solutions that we should be really encouraging more. And that's just my personal belief, again, as someone practicing astrology, giving readings, really observing my own life. That's just kind of my stance. So again, I totally love to hear other opinions on all that stuff, but that's definitely something I've observed definitely happening here in India, whereas in the West, there's not so many remedies yet. I think it's only a matter of time before those start to, play out and people start to sell different things to try to help people. But I really dread that because I think, unfortunately, as I said, really delegitimizes the credibility of astrology as a tool and something that just shouldn't really be taken down that road. And also just living one's life. I know there's definitely people who use astrology to such a negative degree that they don't make decisions or they don't take action until consulting the transits and their placements and stuff like that. And again, I just think that's a really, really slippery slope most people go down when they get into that territory, because I, first and foremost, really believe that acting consciously, leading with your own intuition is always the best way to go. I do think there are for sure some things that are, predetermined and you can't control and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think we generally have a lot of free will, have a lot of ability to make choices every single day. And I try not to honestly let any transits, any, placements in my own chart take away from that. I very actually rarely consult my chart, apart from when I'm trying to study a new concept or something like that, just because I don't think it's helpful after a certain point. I think if anything, it just creates kind of a prison in your mind, or, of thinking, oh, well, I can't do that because of this. And again, I don't choose to use astrology in that way. So that's something I really like to talk to a lot of people about as well, is just being very conscious with how we use and consume astrology. And that goes for tarot or anything else, frankly. So yeah, I didn't want to take too much longer with this video. Just wanted to put out some initial thoughts. Again, totally open and excited to hearing any comments regarding anything I've shared here. And if there are any other specific kind of topics you would be interested in me talking about, please feel free to let me know. So thanks.